Please give a warm welcome to writer, director Leonardo Van Dijl. Thanks for being here, Leonardo. Right off the bat, you tell us, what I love about your film is that you tell us the whole journey of Julie in your mise-en-scène, the visuals. Can you talk a little bit about that aspect? I mean, from the opening shot, she's isolated. There's all this negative space around her. There's darkness all around her. And throughout the film, you keep that sense of isolation and progression in her journey.
Talking about the isolation in a way, like in the beginning of the movie, Julie is extremely disconnected from her world, but even from herself. So we approached it more, like center on her and keep that outside world very vague. And then little by little, I guess, like that world and her start to connect. And in that way, it's like she is also almost uncomfortable to be in the center of it.
She's always off frame.
Yeah. And then, like the last shot, in a way, like she takes that center and she's ready to I guess, to speak. So that was, I guess, very much like a general rule or something, like in terms of evolution. Another big impact was that we shot it on 35. And, that demands quite some preparation because we didn't have the meanings to do everything. So, everything was a very well decided consideration to what is serving the story, what is serving the character. And it creates a kind of like an awareness, I would almost say. And Julie is also somebody who is very aware of herself, very aware that she's being watched, that she's being, expected to speak, like whatever she will say, people are listening all the time. And I like the idea that in that way, like how we made the movie, that process reflected also that inner state. And it goes that far that there is even like a shot in the movie where she's looking in the camera. It's very short. Some people don't see it, but it was almost like, that she is addressing the audience and she's like, please, can you stop like watching me for 3 seconds? Because, I did not choose to actually be in this story. I did not choose for this silence and especially not to be in the center because of it. And I need time, I guess, for myself. So there, we had that aspect, and because we shot it on film, it also the choices that we made became very, sensual in that way, and it obliges us or guides us towards a more, how do you say, I guess, like a mise-en-scène that's quite punctual.
No, it makes sense. I'd love to hear your take on the fact that you choose to do long shots and medium shots. You don't zero in on her. You give her space visually, and then at the same time, we're able to see the environment around her.
Well, I like how you say it because some people are like it's like only close-ups of the, like in a movie, and I'm like, well, that's just because Tessa, I guess, is a very good actress, and she gives you the feeling that it is a close-up. While indeed, like, I was always like, we need to give her space. I really like how I made the movie was with much care and consideration for the character in that way. And I was like, again, like what I said before, like she did not choose for her silence not to be in the center because of it. So, we need to always approach it with a certain consideration that for me felt safe. And at the same time, that rule of like having like the wide and like, the medium in that way, it also creates space. And it allowed, in a way, for the actors to be present. And also, like these things could happen. That in that way, like if you would do more like complex approach and do this and this and this and this. Like, it was always like, we do the scenes and we do them from the beginning to the ending, and we're capturing things, and we give time for the characters to breathe, and almost like a form of meditation, I guess, because that's a bit what I wanted to achieve with the movie, that, the audience had also the time to perhaps reconnect with certain silences they carry themselves, and have time to breathe, and, I guess, hopefully walk out of the movie perhaps a little bit more light, because they had time to process things.
And speaking of that, you start the film in winter, and then it ends in springtime. I understood the journey that ties to her journey, but I'd love to hear you expand on that notion of winter to spring.
Well, it's we go back to that idea that in the beginning she's completely isolated, because Jeremy is that's an achievement that he that I will give him all credits for in that way, that he was the one who made her afraid from that outside world. And it's almost like I said, something, it's a bit, let's say it's kind of cute to say it like that, but it's she was an Eskimo in an igloo. And as the more and more the sun starts shining in that way, the igloo melts. And she, in that way can start looking again to the world. And I found it very important as a message that when you are in certain relationships where you are not allowed to have a voice, where you're not allowed to have agency, where you're not allowed to have boundaries, there is not much to be done in that way. You will always be in that winter. But when, this person is not longer present in your life and is being replaced by somebody like Becky, which is for me almost like a symbol for that spring, then also things gradually will start changing and life will become better. And for me, that was a very important narrative to tell, because I feel often when we talk about, victims, the drama that is centering around it, it's it only becomes worse. And I really wanted to give new outcomes and new narrative to, I guess, a very sad, context, but try to give it with, sensibility and a certain kind of elegance.
Yeah.
That for people who are in a situation as Julie, that they can, I guess, walk out with some hope, and for other people who are perhaps not in a situation, but know somebody like Julie, walk out with a little bit more of understanding or something.
Yeah.
For that character.
Which leads me to my next question, that the care and thought that you have put in your film is, to me, it's remarkable. When I introduced the film, I told them to keep an eye on the costume choices of Julie. At first, she's wearing this frumpy clothes, and as the movie progresses, we see a change in her. By the end, she's wearing that very chic black sweater that makes her look so attractive. Can you tell us about even delineating her journey through the costumes?
So it's true that in the beginning, everything that she wears had to be somehow uncomfortable, and also how do we say we played with that idea that it's a bit childish, almost like the mom, put it on, you wear this, so she has a shirt or t-shirts, and it's a bit I don't know, uncomfortable, I would say, or something. It was really does it look uncomfortable? Does it look a little bit suffocating or something? Also how her hair is or something. She's just a very tidy, she invisible girl in a way. And then then she goes into, I would say, more her brat phase, where she's just she goes to the sports and she's wearing oversized t-shirts and all of that. And then indeed in the ending, in that way, she has a more empowered look, which is for me, where you can see that. And that's also again because the influence of all the positive changes in her life. And when she goes to the last scene to BTF, actually, she wears a very strong outfit where we can see, you know, like her muscles, and it's at the same time it's very elegant and very flattering or something, because she feels more comfortable in that way to be seen. And indeed, like that sweater or something, which I also feel that is very chic. You know, like it's like, I don't know, like it was like, you know, that was the best way or something, like gradually make over or something that indeed like helped me to also like explain that she, while doing this huge, fulfilling this huge responsibility that I don't think she should be carrying, and that's to speak out, that we somehow also feel that she is going to be fine. Not saying that, you know, like I feel my ending as like, you know, look at a strong, you know, empowered girl, and isn't it so brave that she's doing it? Because, you know, I feel that we as society, you know, should organize ourselves in a way that the pressure is not on a victim, but at the same time also, you know, giving a bit of like, you know, like agency and credit and respect for Julie, that she will do what she needs to do and she will be fine. Because ultimately she always, you know, she's a strong girl, from beginning to the end, but not in a, you know, like it's sometimes it's difficult to speak about it, because I don't think one should be strong, or one can be strong and also be extremely fragile. So, you know, it's not like I want to go too much in that, empowering, you know, like thing or something. But in styling, I found it important that we handle that with that intention.
Your usage of music, you know, you're very spare when it comes to, you don't give us a soundtrack that is constant, but when you do, how did you come into the score where it's like, to me at times felt like a cry from the soul, the inner world of Julie, you know, when we hear that chorus singing?
Well, so I always say that I'm much inspired by the Greeks, and so I wanted to have the chorus, and every chapter, you know, like they intervene, and you know they give, I guess, like they break, you know, like let's say the decorum. So for me, it was important that the music was present, and that's also what I said to Caroline. I wanted to do something with spoken word, but at the same time also, like, you know, it's not really, it's spoken word, it's more like a siren. And it was, that idea was like, it's the theme of silence. And gradually, in the way as the movie progresses, that also that theme is, you know, like, you know, becoming more rich and more layered. And within it, everything that, you know, I felt that I couldn't say, you know, like as a voiceover or something, is almost like intuitively communicated. And then we broke it at the fourth chapter by implying a song of with violin. And that's because that's the only moment in the movie that she is actually happy. So that was the theme of Rebirth. So we wanted to work with like one song that is embodying that silence, and the other one is about rebirth. And you can also hear the continuation of it at the ending of the movie after the song of...
Hearing you talk this way empowers me to ask you one crazy question. When I saw your film, I kept thinking that there is this very Greek tragic quality. The way you filmed your story, she recalls like this Greek tragic hero, like Antigone, or am I like tell me, shut the fuck up and get out of here?
It's absolutely, for me, she isn't Antigone in that way. I always, you know, like when people say like, what is the inspiration for the story? I say like, you know, you have Antigone in that way that, you know, she went to the stage, she was there, you know, like, she dared to say no to a system, you know, to challenge it in a way. And that's why she embodies in that way, like almost like, you know, for me, she is the first character in our storytelling that is advocating for human rights, while going to the state and saying like, you know, I should bury my brother because, you know, everyone has that right to do so.
Yeah.
And that's why also like we are still talking about her 2,500 years later. And I was like, you know, what Julie does in that way is like, you know, in a world where, you know, she's being pressured to speak up, she decides to keep quiet. And by keeping quiet, she's asking that world, like, please listen to me. And then in that way, like, you know, she, for me, is a modern Antigone, because she also is there, you know, like, she dares to say no to a system that is, in a way, oppressing her by actually saying, you have to speak. And, like, Antigone dies, sadly, at the end of the movie. Unfortunately, Julie has to speak up.
Yeah.
Because the world has not,
You keep
listened.
using the word, you know, silence, which is very, I mean, it's just amazing. When I was watching your film, I was aware of the different nuances to silences. There is moments in your film that the silence, her being silent, is very violent. There are moments that it's like full of tenderness and that she needs the space. There's other moments that the silence is about rebellion. You know, can you tell us about the different nuances to what her being silent is all about?
Sometimes, like, people ask me, so, you know, she keeps quiet. Why does she keep quiet? And I'm like, I cannot answer that, because every person that she's sitting in with is a new reason to keep quiet. The reason why you don't talk with your parents will be different than you will not speak to your brother or sister, while you're not speaking to a teacher, or you're not speaking to a coach, for example. So in that way also, like, I wanted to also, what you say, like, you know, it's often everything in a way.
But you
And
do that with your sound. What I was referring is to alluding to the fact that there are times when she decides to be silent and we hear bird sounds, and it's pastoral.
really, like, literally the sound design in that way.
Design that,
Yeah.
that emphasizes the fact that there are moments that silent means that it's pastoral, that is fine, that we need meditation, silent.
Yeah.
There are other moments where the sound design becomes violent when she remains quiet. It's fascinating to hear the different layers to silence in your film.
Like, when we talk about sound design, I think, like, we spend it as much time as we were in editing, you know, creating the sound design, and it was really like the aim was, let's make silence as loud as possible or as present as possible. And, you know, when you talk about, for example, the birds, it was literally like listening to many birds, and I was almost like, you know, like, I needed like birds that were a little bit irritating, you know, like, it was like, for me, I like the painter Fontana, you know, like, and he has like he always has like a canvas, a blue, a red, a white canvas, and then, you know, like, he just like, he cuts through it, or he cuts 2 times through it. And in that way, like, that's my, I guess, like, what I always try to do in editing and in sound design. It's always like, you know, you keep it simple, and then you add like one thing, and it's like, you know, and that way, like, to create, I guess, like, you know, like, to keep the eyes and the ears, you know, interested. And, you know, like, in a very funny way, you know, like, what we did with sound design with birds, or sometimes it's like, you know, she's in bed and actually, like, they're picking up the garbage. Outside, or, you know, like, I don't know, like, always like creating this kind of textures, you know, that for me, like, I am very, you know, like, for me, a movie is really like, it's sound and image, and I can get lost almost, like, you know, in that, like, sound.
But then all of that leads to what you started talking about her silence, that is a form, at times it's a form of rebellion, at other times it's a form of her needing to meditate and just like, listen, people, back off. I need to work whatever is going on inside me.
But that's indeed, like, you know, like, it's, I tried in that way, like, to you know, like, bring that inner state closer, you know, like, to the audience, and to allow them to identify with Julie, because I wrote once in an intention letter, you know, like, silence can be empowering, but silence can also be very violent, slowly eroding oneself. But yet, you know, when being forced to speak out, or, you know, like, yet between speaking out or choosing the silence, both choices, you know, imply a kind of let's say, loss. And for Julie also, like, are very clear that both can be in that way, you know, like, harmful. So what do you do in that dilemma, in that way? And it's like almost like, yeah, like to reference not a Greek one, but, you know, Shakespeare, it's like to speak or not to speak. I mean, that's a bit like what it is in a way. And that's also like where I say, like, you know, sometimes it's good to keep quiet, and, you know, like, and it's indeed like a meditation. And sometimes it's also like violence. I think in a more point of view that I made this movie, you know, not to encourage people to stay in silence. You know, like, I encourage people really to start a conversation and to talk, because I think, like, in the end, you know, like, that is the only way to start breathing and letting it out. But with whom you have the conversation with, you know, that's very important. And I don't think it should be at a police office, and definitely not for a 15-year-old girl. That's not where the conversation should start. Correct. It should have ended in that way, you know, in the laundry room with her parents.
And would you touch on a really powerful aspect of your film, that, you know, the pressure on young people that have been victimized to speak up, and you're so sensitive to that aspect. Did you do a lot of research on the subject?
I really did a lot of research in terms of I wrote, like, you know, academic. Sorry, like, I'm a bit jet lagged, and sometimes my words are like coming out in a way I don't want. But, like, you know, like, university studies. I spoke with therapists, coaches, actually a lot of people who are surrounding a character like Julie. And I also really was interested in the concept of safeguarding. In that way, you know, like, how, you know, we can create safe spaces for children or grown-ups to practice sports or to work or any kind to live in that way. And I don't know, like, I used those, I guess, like, rules, you know, like, to create spaces in my movie that were, like, feeling safe or unsafe. But I did not want to go too much into the storyline of the victim itself, because almost, like, you know, sadly, all those stories are in one way or the other the same, especially when it comes to why did you speak up? Because the reason why a victim speaks up is not necessarily because it wants to be heard, but it's especially because they want to protect, you know, a new generation from falling prey from that silence that they had to endure. And there, you know, like, I felt like, you know, let's, you know, not bother the victim again with, you have to speak because I have to tell my story. You know, like, almost like, I will give them their space, and will surround myself with the people who are very well at ensuring, trying their best to keeping her safe. So also a lot of that consideration that is in my movie is because I spoke with people who deeply care for the well-being for girls or boys like Julie.
Yeah. Tennis is so important to the storyline. Every time she steps onto the tennis court, she finds more empowerment, more, you know, we used the term meditation earlier, meditation. You know, I've seen, you know, sports movies where the sport itself is tearing the athlete apart. Instead, you use sport as a metaphor for healing and meditation and empowering. You know, can you tell us about the importance of using the tennis?
Yeah, you know, I feel that it's extremely important for children to have an outlet, because, you know, especially for the children who are like me, for example, I wasn't that good in school. So, you know, like, I couldn't take my pride or my meditation from my points because they were all, like, in red.
Well, thank goodness you were good in the arts.
But indeed, I had that outlet in the arts. I found an expression there, and I know it's the same for a lot of people who do sports. So I didn't want to portray portray that as negative, because it would also go against my intentions, where I'm saying, like, you know, because it's so important for the self-development of a character, we need to really make sure that the children can practice, you know, these things in safe environments. And I feel that often, and I go even more far when you think about how women are represented in movies about sports or dance or whatever. Like, look at the movie as, like, I'm sorry to say, The Black Swan. You know, it's
Black
like
Swan. Yeah.
it's like, you know, like you're a young woman and you have a passion, you have a drive, in that way, and the result is you come completely nuts. And, you know, like, and it's extremely, you know, like, self-harming and, you know, aggressive, and, you know, like, almost like, it's not a good, I don't think that's the message that should be told these days in that way. I feel like, you know, like, the sports is what keeps Julie going, that keeps her also, like, you know, like, on the road. It's like, you know, it's keeping her sane and safe in a way. It was Jeremy in that way who harmed her, but it's because of, you know, like, that fact that she has that passion, that lust for life, and that joy that she has in that tennis, that, you know, like, also, like, she wants to, you know, embrace life and is open for it. And you know, I did not want to tell another story about, you know, a young girl who's being punished, where she was already punished in the beginning of the movie. You know, like, I wanted again, like, you know, find there, you know, a balance where there was also space for the healing. So it was a bit my way to, I guess, like, contribute a new narrative to an old narrative that has been told very much times very harmful.
I'd love to hear your take on the fact that twice when Julie speaks to Jeremy, she puts her cell phone in her chest. Is there a meaning for you, a significance to that aspect?
Yeah, for me, you know, like, Jeremy is almost like a ghost in that way. You know, like, he's not there, but he's constantly, you know, like, present. And I don't know if you know the story about Incubus. You know, like, it's about sleep paralysis, and if you go to the paintings in that way, it's like about young women, and there is sitting a monster on their chest while they're sleeping, and that gives them, you know, like, these hallucinations. And so, in my way, that monster was the cell phone, and that's why I placed it here as an homage to the paintings that portray Incubus, the demon of sleep paralysis.
And you hit me. I'm emotional thinking about that. The actress, she's remarkable. She never acted before. How did this happen? How were you able to find her? And second of all, this is a remarkable performance.
How I approach the story is that, you know, like, maybe the character, I didn't find Julie, but Julie found me. And in a way, like, she dictated me the movie. And I made a movie, you know, like, almost like servicing my my expertise, that when I started the project, there was not much, because I didn't have made a movie before, but, you know, like, servicing, you know, and that my time and, you know, like, my dedication to telling that story as correctly as possible. Again, we go here to the Greeks, you know, like, where the muse comes to you. And I always knew, I never had, like, a concept of, like, it should be this girl or that girl, or, you know, like, because, you know, frankly, that story can happen to anyone. So, you know, like, and that was always, like, people ask me, but how, you know, in script, but how is she like? And I will say, like, I will know when I know. And so when Tessa walked in, I knew. And one part of I feel like, you know, why, you know, like, Tessa was so, yeah, first of all, she was an amazing actress. So, you know, that was, like, clear, even though she had no experience, but it's something that you can feel. But also, like, she was very happy, very chatty, very bubbly or something. And I like that idea because, you know, like, it's not because, you know, this character of Julie, you know, is silent into the movie that she's a silent girl. It's just like, you know, she doesn't want to talk about certain things.
She wasn't silent before.
That's what, yeah. it's
Julie. I
no,
mean,
Julie. It's like, you know, like it's like
she's being forced to
yes,
become an introvert.
exactly. That's what I'm saying. She's being forced to be an introvert. So I like that idea that, you know, like you also take somebody who is almost like, you know, embodies this. And Tessa is also a really, really, really smart girl. And for me, that was important because in one ways, I knew that, you know, like now she's studying, for example, to become a nurse. So, you know, like she graduated already at 16 high school. And so when I met her, I was like, wow, what are you, you know, like you going to study? And she's like, yeah, I'm going to study to become a nurse. And I was like so impressed, you know, like by this girl of like 16 who was like, you know, I want to become a nurse. I want to take care of people. And I was like, that already hit me because I was like, you know, my character will be safe with you because you have deep empathy in that way. And also because she was that smart, I knew also, and it was very important for me that the role of Julie would remain separated from Tessa in that way. I did not want, you know, like in any way that silence would haunt her afterwards. And so I approached it very much as, you know, like acting is a form of lying. We're just going to pretend. You're a teenager, you know what it is to keep quiet. And so there you go, that's the briefing. And so when I say action, you become Julie. And when I say cut, you go back to Tessa or something. So all these things are something like for so many reasons, like above the fact that she was an amazing actress, I also knew that we could create this, you know, role in a very safe way, and that was also very important for me, because, you know, like again, like you still are taking a girl out of her context of like, you know, like a tennis bubble, and you put her on a movie set, and then afterwards you don't know what the outcome can be, and you know, like when I talk about like creating safety, you know, for children, it's important. So also like how you make a movie is much about safety and also like about caring not only, you know, in the preparation of a movie, during the movie, but also after the movie. So it was for me important that, you know, like that girl could, you know, like we could go on for the next 3 years into a safe and healthy collaboration. And honestly, like what she did on set was even me even more than you know, like what I expected. And I think because of her, the movie has become much more silent because she didn't need much dialogue or words to convey. So yeah, she, as I say, like, you know, Julie brought Tessa to me, and I just kept my, how to say, like, yeah, like this, always open for being open for communicating with the universe or something.
And she still wants to be a nurse?
Yes. Now she also wants to become a tennis coach, which I love, because in a way, like, it's like becoming a director or something, you know, like it's like...
But what about acting? She must have other offers coming,
but
or
we
interest.
in Belgium are very small, you know, we don't have a big industry, and she really enjoyed it, but I don't think that she has... it doesn't come from that desire to act or something. In a very cool way, it was also like, you know, like, I'm going to play in a movie. That's fun, no? Like, you know, like, and that's it for her in that way. It's also like she approached it very much as a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, and you know, like, and then again, like the athlete comes in. It's like, you know, like, and I'm going to absolutely, you know, make it the best performance ever or something, you know, like, because, you know, the athlete always wants to, you know, like, win. And yeah, that's how she did it in that way. And
well, hopefully this is not the last we see
but
of you.
I also hope to see her more on the screen.
Yeah.
Me personally, but I'm not, you know, I'm also like, when you're young, I say like, you know, like, just like, now she's also like doing ceramics or pottery. You know, like what I mean, like she has like so many talents or something, and whatever she will choose, she will be great in it.
Well, hopefully, as I mentioned, as I interrupted you, this is not the last we see of you, and can't wait for your next film. Thank you so much for being here, Leonardo. What an amazing film. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, everybody.